Good morning, hold on. Stream's not doing great. There we go. Okay. Much better. Excellent connection. Perfect. Welcome, everybody. Let's fix the camera a little bit. There we go. Perfect. That's better. What's going on, everybody? It is another week here in the NFL slate, and it is another week for us to try to win some money with Underdog Fantasy. So, like always, if you haven't played before, go ahead and use my code TJS when you sign up. You'll get $100 in bonus funds when you place a $5 wager. Obviously, always play responsibly and always make your own decisions. That's what this video is here for. It's to basically help you make those decisions, talking about what I think is going to be best for this slate. You can do opposite of what I do. You can leave things out. I always go for the big hitters. Oh, sorry, I'm going to turn the air off just because it is screaming in my ear today. I'm going to go for those big hitters. I'm going to go for, bigger tickets, max them out at 8 usually to try to win the most money. Obviously, I don't recommend doing that unless you're okay with, losing everything. But mainly this is about just trying to find those good odds that you're taking, the higher or the lowers. You're looking for those top hits with these. So basically that's what we're doing here. We're looking at those players that I think are going to hit and help you build a better ticket for yourself. Granted, you can copy exactly what I'm doing. You can take here or there, one or two that I'm using, but this is just to more have a conversation and see what I'm thinking and everything to that degree. So before we get too much further though, I just want to always say, make sure you make your own choices, have fun with this, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. Sorry, a side caveat as well. If there is a matchup that I'm not feeling, like I don't like one or the other, one way or the other, at least 4 players, I'll skip that entirely. So if I do skip a matchup, that's the reason why. So, okay. Jumping into this early morning slate at 8:30 in the morning, Denver at New York Football Giants playing in London. So there's a few different players here that I'm really enjoying, but J.K. Dobbins has been a great surprise this season. As I said, earlier this season, R.J. Harvey was projected to be a guy on this team. He was projected to be a starting running back at some point. J.K. Dobbins is basically saying that's not happening on my watch, and that's basically what's been happening. Is he has dominated this entire season. And I think that's going to continue in this Sean Payton offense. So I am definitely looking at him on a higher for rushing yards. If you look over the last few weeks, he's been able to hit 68 consistently, except for week 1 against the Titans. I don't see that really changing with this Jets defense that I had hope in, but obviously that has dwindled because they can't stop anything. So J.K. Dobbins taking that higher. I am really liking that for sure. Hold on real quick. I just want to make sure, because I always save my favorites from week after week. Let me make sure I removed everybody from last week. Okay, nobody's there. Great. Good thing I checked. Okay, jump back into it. Okay. Higher. Favoriting that. Okay. So as we look on the other side of the ball, Justin Fields is somebody I'm also looking at here. He's not been the problem in New York. Let's be honest with ourselves. He has been putting them in the best situation to win every single week. That team as a whole is just missing something, and unfortunately, the blame is getting put on Justin. Overall, if you look at his performance, 46 attempts, holy hell, that's a lot of throwing the ball, but he's able to do it. He did get hurt in one game where he looked terrible in Buffalo. We're going to excuse him on that one, but overall he's been somebody that has been pretty consistent, and both passing and rushing yards are within his wheelhouse. Even his Buffalo game, he almost got 50 yards. Dallas, he didn't get 50, obviously he got 26, but his passing yards, he's basically done that on the games that he's performed well. So it's one of those things where I like either one, but just with Denver's defense and how stingy they are, I think they're going to be down a lot, so I like them passing the ball, and I think Justin Fields is going to hit that number where it's going to be a situation where he is literally looking to throw the ball because they are going to be down so much, and I'm just going to want to get in on that. On that same hand, though, I'm going to want to get on the other side of the ball with this, because with Garrett Wilson, he was somebody that I doubted as well. But again, his projection is only 55 yards. 55 and a half, excuse me. 55 and a half projection. He's done that every week except against Buffalo. I think you got to take the higher here again in the situation where I think the Jets are going to be down and throwing the ball against the Broncos. The one benefit I will say that the Jets have over the Broncos is their travel to London was much shorter. You know, the trip from New York to London is much shorter than the trip from Denver to London. So they do have that going for them, I guess. So that is something that I want to keep an eye on. Courtland Sutton has become a very reliable target for Bo Nix. You know, getting targeted 10 times last week against I don't want to say not very good, but a Eagles team that is reeling a little bit. But either way, he is becoming a target for him, and I like it. I think the receptions at 4.5, especially with this multiplier, makes too much sense because, again, he's done it in every week except for the Indianapolis game. I think you take the risk on this. I think that 4.5 is going to definitely be something that gets it done. And I know I said I normally just do big tickets, but I'm going to even do this as a small little ticket because I really like this just to get the ball rolling a little bit there. So got the first wager in this morning. So let's get that for Sunday morning. That is what I'm looking at for that early morning slate. Moving on to Dallas and Carolina. Dallas and Carolina is going to be one of those games where it could either be a great shootout or it could be a complete shit show. Let's be honest. It could be absolutely terrible. So I'm a little more cautious here. I want to go for the matchups that I really believe in, starting with Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson, you know, he has been a player that has been on Dak's radar, especially with the injury to CeeDee Lamb. He got targeted 9 times last week, but even before then, he was getting targeted 14 and 12 times. Him getting 6 receptions doesn't seem out of the possibility range. Same with targets, 8.5, and you still get a multiplier. So I would take either one of these. I would take receptions or targets at the multiplier just to get that multiplier up. I think that's a pretty good situation, especially for a Carolina team that isn't very good, but where they are good is in the secondary. They have J.C. Horn. They have players who can cover the cornerbacks. Sorry, I usually have my other window up. Let me get that up to... Here we go. So, ranking the tight ends. The Panthers actually rank pretty... Oh, no, excuse me. That is for kickers. My fault. Where are the Panthers? Oh no, that is for Titan. Jesus, sorry. It is early. Everybody, my fault here. So Panthers have given up about 14.8 points to the tight end position. That's not terrible. I don't know why this rank makes no sense. No, Jesus Christ. Okay, there we go. Now I'm on board. Now kicking in. Okay, so the Panthers are. Where'd they go? I just saw they were like 12. Oh my God. I'm just blind. Hold on. There we go. Second. Jesus. There we go. We are on the same page here. They have given up the second most amount of points to the tight end position. So getting Jake Ferguson at 5.5 receptions seems like it's pretty much a very optimistic thing to do. Not optimistic, optimal thing to do. It looks like it's going to be a situation where they're going to be throwing to the tight end because they're going to be open. Whereas George Pickens might be covered by J.C. Horn and he might be shadowed by him. So I have hesitation with that. So I like the Jake Ferguson pick there for sure. Speaking of George Pickens, where did he go? There he is. 70 yards. 71 yards is all he would need to get his number. Didn't do it against the Jets. Again, great secondary. Green Bay was a great game for him, but he hasn't done it in any other matchup. And going against J.C. Horn, I don't love it. I don't love the situation, so I'm going to lock him in on lower there. Again, this is probably going to be one of those situations because I try to do 4 in every matchup. This is one of those ones where I don't love the whole pick, so I may not use it. But out of all these options, these are the ones that I'm really looking at going, yeah, that looks very realistic. Rico Dowdle has been named the starter because Chuba Hubbard is out. 206 yards as a starter. That's not going to be maintainable, obviously, but it's something that I do think he will hit at 72.5. I think he can definitely get that because, again, Dallas has holes. Running back, stopping the run is one of them. I don't really see an issue with that. And lastly, in this matchup, we're going to be looking at Dak Prescott. I think this game is going to be a blowout. I think they're going to be throwing the ball. So I think that getting him higher on the touchdowns thrown is the way to go, especially with this multiplier at 87. I think, again, it's going to be a blowout game. They've been getting more and more consistent. Outside of Chicago, he's thrown multiple touchdowns. So getting 2 in a game against a very bad Panthers team, I don't see that being unrealistic either, to the point where, I'm very comfortable taking this chance and seeing what he's got here. So those would be my 4 for this matchup. Again, ranking them, I'm putting Ferguson, Prescott, Dowdle, Pickens. That's my 4. So again, do what you think, but my hesitation with Pickens is because of the secondary in Carolina is actually the decent unit of that team. So take with that as you will. All right, moving on to the Rams at Baltimore. Baltimore has been terrible. Their defense is terrible. You're going to notice a trend here. I'm hitting the Rams basically every chance I can get. Starting with Matt Stafford. Where did he go? There he is. So Stafford, again, I think this is just going to be a game that gets out of hand quickly. He's scored multiple touchdowns every single week with a multiplier higher on touchdowns in a game that, again, should be very heavily Rams favored against a very bad Ravens defense. Seems like a pretty easy option there. I do also see this game getting out of hand at some point, so they are going to start still early. Starting to have to run the ball. Williams getting 73 yards. Didn't do it against San Francisco. I don't know why Casey at Jacksonville's listed here, but okay. But again, the Ravens are that bad of a team. He can break off one big run and get in the end zone, no problem. So I think 73.5 yards is a very realistic option. This man right here has fallen off a cliff. Derrick Henry has fallen off an absolute cliff, and it's to the point where you can't trust him doing anything. He said it's 74.5 yards. He hasn't done that all season. Texans are the number 1 defense when it comes to not allowing points against opponents. Only allowed 33 yards. He had one good game against Buffalo. That's it. The consistency here is telling me to take the lower. Obviously, one big play for any of these guys when you take lower can absolutely wipe that out. So that's why I'm always hesitant to take lower, because one blown coverage, one slip through, busting big yards, your ticket's done. So that's where I am hesitant, but because of the utilization of Derrick Henry, plus having Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback again this week, it's not a favorable situation for me. I don't like it. I'm not really a fan of it, so I'm going to definitely take that lower on the rushing yards there. Now, obviously you can go with somebody like Puka, but they're not even giving him yards right now. I don't know if he's hurt. No, he's not hurt. It doesn't look like he's hurt. So I don't know what the situation is with him not getting yards. So, I'm not going to trust that. Again, you could take the receptions here. He's done it pretty consistently. So there's that. But Devontae Adams at 67.5. I feel like him and Stafford are really starting to connect better. 2 consistent performances there, but broke out last week for 88 yards. I think I'm willing to take the risk again. Out of the options here, it is my least favorite of the 4. Probably one that I might leave off a ticket, but if I'm picking 4 from each matchup, that is number 4 for me. So yeah. DeAndre also seems like a good option as well. 13.5 yards just seems way too low for a season target like DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to be somebody for Rush to throw to. I think 13.5 also something that could definitely be done. So looking at that as well. And then, are they giving anything Rush? Okay. 185. That's tough. That's tough. But I definitely take the lower on fantasy points if you're willing to risk that. How do they do it? Okay. Yeah, I would take the lower on fantasy points for that one, for sure. That would be a favorite of mine, honestly. I think that's a solid option. So those would be a couple bonus picks in that one because, again, that game is going to be a blowout. I don't see it being close whatsoever. So not really feeling that one. All right, moving on to Cleveland at Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of questions with both Warren and Gainwell. Did Gainwell do enough to earn himself, a role within the Steelers offense? Who knows? So that's why I'm not wanting to touch either running back this week, just because, it's a tough call. It really is. Because if you look at Warren's reception and yards, that's one I was looking at because he's been pretty decent about it. But again, I don't know what the usage is going to be. Him coming off an injury with the great performance by Gainwell, it just doesn't seem like a great option. However, in Cleveland's side, I want to take the rushing here on Judkins 100%. He has been a great running back for the Browns. He's been a great option for the Browns. He's done it almost every single week except for his first week, but look at his usage. It's only going up 10, 18, 21, 23. And it's just, I like him a lot. I think it's a very solid pick this week. And he is out of this game, that's my favorite one. That's the one that I'm highlighting, going to use in multiple tickets. Absolutely. Moving on to a man who I think his role is going to increase only more is David Njoku. With Dylan Gabriel being a rookie quarterback, being somebody who's going to have to rely on, players like Njoku, experienced check down options, I think he's the option for Njoku. Now, you can take a whole different approach. You can take the receiving yards because, again, pretty decent. He's done it pretty much every week except for one. But I'm looking at the receptions because there's the multiplier. Look at what he did last week, 6. He didn't against Green Bay. The other weeks he hasn't. But look at what Dylan Gabriel did. He targeted him 9 times. Sure, you could even take the 5.5 targets, but I just like the 1.9 multiplier. That's just me. I think this is solid just because I think this is what the game is going to look like, especially with TJ Watt rushing Dylan Gabriel as a rookie. I think he's going to check down a lot to Njoku. So again, that is one that I'm really liking, especially with the multiplier, to earn more on your tickets. I think it's pretty decent. DK Metcalf has been okay. He hasn't been like he was in Seattle, but he's been doing decently. Last week he went off in London against Minnesota. Is this a trend of things to come? I'm not sure. Because if you look at him, if it wasn't for these touchdowns, it would basically be an irrelevant performance every single week. And with how the Browns are, it's tough. I would take the lower here just because the consistency hasn't been there. Yeah, he blew up last week with Aaron Rodgers in London, but is that sustainable? I'm not sure, and I'm not willing to take that risk on it this week. And just let another week go by and see what happens in these games. Aaron Rodgers, again, he's been looking better, but his yardage isn't there. Browns have a very good team, and I think they're going to be down a lot, and I think the passing attempts is going to be there. Again, I just like the multiplier here. If the multiplier wasn't there, I would be like, okay, I'm willing to skip it. But with the multiplier, I think the attempts are going to be there because the Browns defense, they're going to rush him. They're going to get to him. They were able to shut Green Bay down and eventually win that game. I think they could do the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. So I like the passing attempts higher on Rodgers there. Or you could take the yards lower. Either one there. But again, the Steelers are the big question mark. If I'm building a Steelers-Browns ticket only, I'm putting those in there. But for the bigger tickets that I'm going to do, I'd probably leave those off. But again, we'll see when we start actually building the full tickets here and see what we've got going. All right, moving over to Arizona, Indiana. Hold on. Keep saying Indianapolis. Jesus. Okay. Jonathan Taylor has been incredible this year. With Daniel Jones under center, they really have utilized him. He has not been consistent with the touchdowns, as you can see, but I think this is going to be a week where he does get in the end zone just because the Cardinals aren't very good either. They're not a team that really is able to stop the run. So I think they could absolutely get Jonathan Taylor, just even get him close to the goal line work, and I think he gets in the end zone. I think that's definitely something that could happen in this matchup, so I'm willing to take that risk. Marvin Harrison has been a guy that I have trusted in this entire season. I'm willing to take risks on him because I just believe in his talent, and I just think it needs time to click. It looked like it clicked last week. He's also been able to get the yards in all but 2 performances, but recently they've gone to him more often. He's been able to prove himself. I think this is another week where he does that. 51.5 yards does not seem unrealistic, doable for him. He even had one big pass last week where he got that in one pass. So Marvin Harrison just seems like the option for me. So take that as you will. This one is a bit more of a risk here because we have no idea what the Cardinals running back situation is going to be, especially with DeMarco's fumble losing that game. So I don't know if I'm really willing to risk on him, but Michael Carter seemed like he was a great option and a great fill-in option. 50.5 yards. He got 51 last week against Tennessee team. He's going against Colts, but I think he is going to get the bulk of the workload just because of the embarrassment that DeMarco did by losing that game. So I'm willing to take that 50.5 over and just trust that the Cardinals are going to be able to get a chance to run the ball. With that said, let's move over to the man who has revitalized his career in Indianapolis and looks just incredible. Let's be honest. He has looked incredible this season. The Colts like to throw the ball. This number scares me, so I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to drop it down to 27.5 and take that higher. Yeah, I'm taking a little bit of a ding just because I'm changing the odds, but even on games where they've dominated, they've gotten that. It's only been 1 week that they have not gotten that, so I'm going to trust that Colts are going to throw the ball. Cardinals are a little bit better than, Tennessee, and he got 25, so all I'm asking for really here at this point would be, 2 more? Is that what I said? Yeah. 27.5, so what am I asking for? Yeah, 3 more, so I think 27.5 is very realistic and something I'm willing to take that little bit of a ding on, but again, those would be my 4 in this matchup. I think this could be a game that's surprisingly decent. Maybe not a complete blowout because, again, the Cardinals embarrassed themselves. They're going to be looking at a situation where they want to redeem themselves against a team that is very good. So it could be something that is a better matchup than we're actually giving it credit for, but we'll see. Moving on to the Chargers in Miami. Darren Waller, I've always been a fan of Darren Waller. I love his story. I love his comeback story. I think he's a great player, and he looks fantastic in Miami. It just seems like he works. 3 receptions, 5 receptions. First game back, 2 touchdowns. Getting to establish himself with Tua and having Tyreek out, got another touchdown. I like the higher on the receptions here. I think he's becoming a reliable target for Tua. A check down option for a Dolphins team that is not able to protect Tua to the point where he's going to have to get rid of the ball very quickly. So Darren Waller, I think at the receptions is a very reasonable take, a very solid option here. So I'm going to take that higher on receptions, and let's favorite that because we don't want to lose it. So the one thing I'm nervous about is we don't know which one of these 2 is going to be the starter. So let's see what Underdog is saying. Set to split. Okay, so they're going to be splitting touches. They are projecting him at 37.5 rushing yards. It's tough. 29.5. And that's the problem. We have no idea what this committee is going to look like, and I know one of them went to Michigan. Was it Haskins who went to Michigan? Let me see. I believe it was Haskins who went to Michigan. Yeah, so Haskins went to Michigan, which is what people are more leaning towards, that he's going to be favored because he has that history with Harbaugh. So I think that could be a realistic option. So I'm going to be a little spicy here. It's a high risk, situation, but something that I do foresee happening because of the relationship with Harbaugh and being the guy. So I think Haskins could get that easily, but again, it's going to be one of those games where we have no idea. I usually don't like picking touchdowns, but Devon Achane is literally the only guy that I think can actually get in the end zone for the Dolphins at this point, outside of Waller. These two are basically going to be driving this entire team, so I think Devon Achane getting into the end zone makes a lot of sense for me, so I'm willing to take that risk. And last but not least, Quentin Johnston has been incredible this season. He has taken a step forward in his career. Last week, was okay, but definitely left more to be desired. But I'm going to go ahead and take the higher on the receptions here because I think that him and Herbert have a very good relationship and that they are going to, be able to get those touches, get those yards, and, sustain drives. This could be another blowout. Miami was able to keep the Cardinals, the Panthers at bay, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do that with the Chargers. So I think that game could be a blowout, but it's not my favorite game on the slate, but it's one that there's a couple picks that I really like. So moving on to New England and New Orleans, this is definitely a matchup I don't like at all. I don't like this matchup whatsoever. I would skip it entirely. If I am taking anything, I would take Kamara higher on receptions because he's done it pretty much every week. They're going to need to check down to him. I think that's a lock there, actually. I really do. I really like that one. At 3 receptions, I think he can do that. And taking Diggs at yards. Excuse me. At receptions. Misread my notes. Him getting receptions, I think, is definitely doable. He's been doing it. His workload's gone up. Outside of the Pittsburgh game, he's been pretty consistent, and he got 10 last week. I think that's going to be a continuous thing with him and Drake May developing their relationship. So I think those two are pretty solid. I love how I said I'm not going to do this, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I like that. I like this. I'll take a ding here. I will take a ding here, and I'll say 219. I'll take that higher. I think that's pretty solid for him. Again, the Saints aren't very good. This could be a game where they're trying to definitely, establish themselves. So I like Drake May at that. Taking that 219. Can I find 4? No, I think that's it. Those would be my 3 in this matchup. I think just taking those 3 at that would be pretty solid. But again, not my favorite matchup of the slate, so not going to force things that I don't see because that's how you just take bad options. You know what I mean? All right, so moving on to Seattle and Jacksonville. You look at players like Kenneth Walker and you go, okay, 52.5 yards. That doesn't seem insane. It really doesn't. His usage has been inconsistent. That's what my issue is. Zach Charbonnet has also looked decent. So they're really becoming a true split by committee, and it's why I'm hesitant. If you were going to, I would take the rush yards, but again, I'm hesitant. I don't want to take that risk. I want to take something more sustainable like JSN, who has been an absolute wide receiver 1 this year, and 83.5 yards doesn't seem totally crazy. He's only had 1 week where he hasn't done that. Him and Sam Darnold have developed such a good rapport that I don't see that really being an issue whatsoever. Speaking of rapports, we're going to move over to Travis Hunter. Him and T-Law have not started off the best. They had that commercial where it looked like, oh, we're going to be best friends. Yeah, this is not best friend behavior. Him going on both sides of the ball was always going to be an issue because it's going to limit his ability to be a wide receiver and be full-time, being out, for every snap. So it's why people are a little more hesitant. But I think 41.5 yards here is solid just because I think they are starting to develop. Only been going up since Houston. Only missed it by a yard in Cincinnati. So it's consistent usage is going up. He's starting to get more targets. He is going to be a player that I think is going to be a good situational player for Jacksonville. And I like this game in this situation because this could absolutely be a shootout. Jacksonville is one of my favorite games to be a shootout in this week. Just look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the Chiefs. Look what the Seattle Seahawks were able to keep up with the Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a shootout, and I do want every piece of it I can. So moving on to Trevor Lawrence. They've been throwing the ball consistently. They have him set at 33.5 attempts. because I really do believe that this is going to be a shootout, I will take the higher on the attempts. I think this is going to be a game where they are going to be going back and forth and trying to get points any way they can. And with where the Seahawks defense is, I think they'll be able to, stop them on a few attempts, so they are going to have to throw the ball a lot more. A.J. Barner is another player I really like at 25.5 reception yards because he has been quietly becoming a better target for Sam Darnold. He has basically taken that Cooper Kupp role, if you ask me, what they were expecting him to do. And if you look at it, literally, is been going up and up and up. 2 touchdowns last week, 7 receptions on 7 targets. He's consistently catching the ball, and I like him at 25.5 or even the 2.5 receptions. Either one, I think, is pretty solid. But I'm going to go with the yards just because 25.5 is basically just a home run ball. You just need a pretty decent ball for him to catch or 2, and you got that. Whereas the receptions, you need him to be open and everything. So open more consistently, rather, you need him to be. So I'm going to definitely take the yards in that situation. All right, Tennessee, Las Vegas. This could be a high-scoring game because both teams are just that terrible. So I'm going to start with Ashton Genty and take the higher on receptions and yards because he's been able to do it. He's being consistent. He is their best option in that entire system. So I think they're going to use him, especially with Brock Bowers being out. I think they're going to lean way more heavily on the run and checkdowns, where Genty will become that checkdown option for him with Bowers being out. I like this option for him just because it's something that I really do believe he will be able to get no problem. Speaking of, let's move to Calvin Ridley. Consistently disappointing, has one good game against Arizona to the point where I'm now back on him at 47.5 yards. Him and Cam Ward appear to be getting into a groove more often now because Cam Ward's interview talking about them being asked, somebody like Ridley, who's been in the league, is not going to take kindly to that. You know what I mean? He's played on terrible teams before. He doesn't want to continue to do that. So I think him and Ward probably got together and started developing better timing and everything like that. So I'm willing to take that risk at 47.5 yards on him. Probably the last week I'll do it because it's probably going to burn me. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, these are just to help you make decisions. So if you don't agree with what I'm doing, go ahead and ignore it or do the opposite of what I'm doing. So this is just more to talk out everything and what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking it. So you don't have to copy every single thing I'm doing. Make your own decisions and do what you think is best. But we're going to jump into Cam Ward here. He has looked better. Again, he is playing on a terrible team. I really do think this kid is going to be the real deal in the long run. It's just right now he is not on a good team. They don't have options for him. They don't have an offensive line to protect him. It's just tough. But this is a game where I do think that they are going to be able to utilize his skill set and be in it. 197 yards does not seem impossible for him against a Raiders team like this. He's done it against the Colts, which are a better defense than, the Raiders are. Did it against Cardinals. Yeah, didn't do it against Houston because they're a good team. Didn't do it against the Rams. They're a good defense. Didn't do it against Denver. They're a good defense. It was his first game. I think this is a little low for him this week against a team where, again, this could be a shootout just because both teams are so bad and they can't stop either one that it just becomes a shootout. So I don't think either one is a terrible option in this situation. Let's see. There was one more I was looking at. Geno. 224. He's done it pretty consistently. Only missed it with Chicago and the Chargers. Bears, you really have no... Or, excuse me. The Titans, you really have... The Bears, you have no excuse. The Chargers, you do. Definitely do. But I'm going to take the yards here on the higher for Geno Smith because, again, the Titans' defense is terrible. It's going to be a game that I think they literally are, going back and forth because both teams aren't able to stop anybody, and it's just either going to be high scoring or low scoring, but I think the attempts are going to be there. So those are the 4 I'm taking in this matchup because, again, it's not the greatest matchup, but it is one that is pretty decent and could lead to a lot of options there. All right, Cincinnati, Green Bay. We all know where we're going with this. If they've even uploaded him at this point, they have. I don't see this going well for Joe Flacco. I'm taking the lower here just because First of all, he hasn't done it once outside of playing Cincinnati, ironically. Wow, that's actually funny. It's a new system. He has no idea what he's going to be doing. Yes, he has Jamar Chase. Yes, he has T. Higgins, but I don't like the 210.5. I don't think that's sustainable with a guy who's been there less than, a week, essentially. However, I do like Mr. Love here. I think Love is going to go higher than 244. Against Dallas, he did it. Washington, he did it. Detroit and Cleveland, he did not do it, unfortunately, but Cleveland game was a mess. And I think that is a outlier, not the, not the consistent of what he's going to be doing. So 244.5 against a Bengals team who can't do a whole lot. I think it's going to be a situation where, they just score a lot. They're going to throw it. And I think this man is going to get his share of the pie in those yards. And I'm going to take Matthew Golden at 43.5 over. Again, Jordan Love just needs to throw one deep ball to his deep ball threat, and he's got that in a matchup against the Bengals, who are terrible. The Bengals cannot do anything when it comes to stopping anybody. So I think this is just going to continue and just be one of those situations where, they feast, essentially. I do like Dobbs as well. I think he can get in the end zone. He's become a consistent favorite for Jordan Love. He's been scoring out of all the receivers the most, so I like him to get in the end zone as well against this terrible Bengals team, especially if they get down to the goal line. So those would be my 4 in this matchup right here. And there's that. Okay. Closing out Cincinnati and Green Bay. San Francisco and Tampa Bay is another one that can be an absolutely incredible game. I'm liking Mac Jones for the yards. Again, I think he's a little low right now. He's been very good in the Shanahan system for the 49ers. He's basically been a replacement for Brock Purdy to the point where it's going to be a conversation of if they keep Mac Jones as starter when Brock Purdy comes back, because it's just, I don't know how you don't. He's been playing that well. So I want to keep riding this against a Buccaneers team that, let's just see where they are with quarterback. Yeah, they've allowed the 8th most points to quarterbacks. I don't see this as a bad choice here. I think Mac Jones could absolutely feast in this situation. So I'm going to take him on the higher there. I'm nervous taking McCaffrey every single week because they just set his expectations so high, but every single week he does it. So I'm going to ride it this week. I think, again, with how this game is going to play out, with how many points they give up to the quarterback position, where are they at running back, though? Let's just see. 20th. Okay. It doesn't totally deter me, though. You know what I mean? It doesn't deter me to the sense where I don't think that he can get that. I'm going to trust my gut, trust his rushing and receptions, and just take McCaffrey. Mbuka has been a stud, and I think that continues here again. I think he has become Baker's favorite target because I think Evans is still out, right? Is Mike Evans out? Let's double check real quick. Out. Okay. So yeah, Mike Evans is out again. So I think Mbuka is just going to continue what he's been doing. So I'm going to take that higher on yards. I don't think that's even a question at this point. I think you just got to trust with what the kid has been doing and just trust that Baker gets him the ball. Bucky's still out too, right? Except for another start. Okay. Yeah, I don't like this one either. Don't like that at all. It's tough. This has been a matchup where it's like I like both sides of the ball. Where is Baker? What did they set Baker to? Am I just blind? Did I pass him? There he is. God. My God. Okay. 240. Yeah, I could see that happening. I absolutely could. But the attempts are tempting. No, I'm going to stick with the yards because, again, this could be a game that is another shootout, and I think 240 is just a little too low for Baker. He's been consistently throwing the ball like that lately. Had a great game last week. I think they're going to build off that. So I'm going to take those 4 in this matchup. And there's a lot of good matchups this week for Underdog and Fantasy in general, so just a lot of shootouts. So it's a tough call on a lot of these. All right, moving on to Detroit and Kansas City. This is one of those ones I don't like. Like I said, if I don't like a matchup, I'm not going to force it. The Chiefs aren't what the Chiefs have been, so it's hard to say, oh, this is going to be a great shootout. It absolutely could be, and that's the issue. It absolutely could be a great shootout, but the problem is that I can't trust this to the point where I'm willing to put money on it. So I'm just going to skip Chiefs at Detroit. Moving on to Buffalo at Atlanta. Who doesn't love a double Monday night game? James Cook was ghosted last week. Let's be honest. He disappeared. I think this was a fluke, and I'm willing to take that risk at the higher rushing and reception yards against a Falcons team that has not been... How do I put this? Hasn't been a great season for him. They are good against the running back, as you can see here. They give up the least amount of points to running backs, but James Cook is different because he catches the ball, and I think he'll be okay. I like Bijan to get in the end zone at some point in this game. I know it's the Bills. It's scary. They have a very good defense, but I do trust that he will be able to do that, and I'm willing to take, again, a chance on that. Outside of this game can go either way. The running backs are the only ones that I really like in this matchup, so we're going to go ahead and skip ahead because we are coming up on 40 minutes here, so I want to get, start building tickets with you guys so it's not too long. So our last game, Chicago at Washington. I like this game to be a shootout again. I think Caleb is going, no, not the yards. I wanted him on attempts. I think this is going to be a game where it's a good game, but I think the Bears are going to be down. I think they're going to have to resort to passing the ball a lot because the Commanders' defense is not terrible, and I think they are going to be able to keep Caleb in his place to a degree, so they're going to need him to throw the ball. Jaden Daniels is coming back from injury and still through 231. I think 219 is a little low for him, especially with somebody of his talent against a Bears team that is not very good. So I like Jaden to get his yards here. Bill, again, great situation. I like him for the rushing yards. Went off last week. I think this is now going to basically establish him as the RB1, hopefully, or it could be a Woody Mark situation where they don't use him at all after a breakout week. So either one. But I do like Roma Dunze. Like I said, I think they're going to have to throw the ball. He's going to need somebody to catch it. I don't like the targets here or the receptions because it's not been consistent, but I do like the yards here. I think he is definitely going to need to be catching the ball, and their Bears are going to be throwing the ball. Just think it makes too much sense in this situation. So those would be my 4 for the NFL Monday night game. So those are my favorites. Let's go over and start building this ticket. Of course. That really sucks. Okay. So we are just going to, because I made notes here, don't worry, everybody. We are just going to go through. So I like Dobbins for yards. Fields higher on yards. Wilson higher on yards. And Sutton on receptions. I think I'm going to keep that there. I think I am going to use all 4 in this game there. You know what? No, let's build the most confident ticket first instead of the matchups I'm doing. So we'll take receptions there. I think Dowdle there. Ferguson on receptions. I think that one is for sure. Okay. We're only going to do 1 to 2 each game at most. Rams in Baltimore. Okay. Like Stafford for those TDs to get that multiplier. Williams on yards, right? Let's see. No. We're only doing 1 or 2, so let's keep it 1 or 2. Judkins or Njoku on receptions. I think that's the one. I think that is absolutely the one here. All right, how many do we have? 2, 4, 5. Okay. Yep. See, this is a hard part because my problem is I build tickets and I'll get 4, 5, 6 right. It's the last 2 that screw me over. And it's like, God, why can't I just build all the ones I'm right on in the same ticket? And then I'd be very happy. But, of course, that doesn't happen. Okay. Waller on receptions, I think, is the one. All right. I think that's the one. I think that's the one that I'm most confident with. So we're just going to lock that in. Okay. Now we'll just do a bunch of random tickets. So those are the ones I'm most confident will hit. So discount the Tigers. Oh. All right. So now we'll do a morning slate of the ones. So I like that. And I like that. Now I'm going to try to diversify a little bit just because, you don't want to miss so much that you don't get. Like, you don't want to take all the same wagers and bet on the same ones that end up not hitting, So, it's too tempting. Okay. I'm going to skip Dallas and Carolina in that because that's just way too tempting. All right. Lower on Derrick Henry. I'm going to take the higher on Williams there. Higher on Devontae there. That's just too tempting. I'm going to replace Devontae with that. That's just too tempting. I know it wasn't one of my favorites, but that's just way too tempting. That is way too low for somebody of DeAndre's skill. You know what I mean? Like, that is way too tempting. All right, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. We will take Judkins on the rush. God, there's so many morning games. JT getting in the end zone. I like that one. All right. There's my morning slate. Let's go with the afternoon slate here. Okay, there's 3. Like Dobbs getting the end zone and that. Okay. 2 more. That's a lot of Green Bay. That is a lot of faith in Green Bay. It's okay though. I trust it. I'm trusting it. And that will be our afternoon slate. And since we have 3 games, I'm avoiding Detroit KC. So I will take You know what? Not even going to build a Monday Nighter. I am going to build a college one instead. Just take a flyer on college because I want to see how these tickets do, in all honesty. But those were my thoughts on Monday. Again, Monday, not my favorite matchups, again, except for Washington's Chicago. It's too tempting. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I am going to build it because this is just too much of a tempting matchup here. Okay, let's jump back to Buffalo and Atlanta. All right, we'll just do a primetime slate then. There's got to be one here. Let's see. There's got to be one. He's been consistent. I got to do it. Okay. So that is my primetime slate. Oh, I'm missing one. Okay. I hate them all. I hate it all. I'll just do 7. I'll just do 7. Don't force it. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of this. You don't want to force it. All right. We'll still do college football. Let's just see. We'll do a little profit booster to make college today a little more fun. What kind of boosters do we got? 30% profit. Let's go. 50%. Okay. Collapse all. Start looking for some good matchups here. I know 230 is Oregon, so let's check Oregon. I think this is going to be a very fun game. Dante. Yeah, 240 seems reasonable, especially against a good team like this. Mendoza also. They yell at me before I even get in. Like, I haven't even stopped yet. And with my college ones, I usually just do the quarterbacks just because quarterbacks are a little more predictable. You can kind of guess what they're going to do. Like 278, you're basically asking the kid to throw 300 yards. He's done it a couple times. Yeah, it seems a little high for me. Just a little bit. The Mizzou kid, 204, that's it. Let's see. Yeah, that game could actually be pretty ugly. Mahomes Jr., what is he? 246. Ugh. I'll take a chance on Mahomes Jr. here. Okay. 217, the kid's throwing. Okay, I'll take a risk on that. $54 rushing. God. Okay, let's see what the night games are. Georgia Auburn. Yeah, I like that one. Okay. 207. Ugh, God. It's hard to be that confident. It's really hard to be that confident in that kid. 173. That seems light. That seems really light. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take the higher on that. Last one. Which one are we feeling? This kid's been getting worked. Oh, that car kid's been pretty good for me. Not that good. Not that good. Sorry, I know this is thrilling just watching me think here. I just need one more. Just need one more. The fact that I'm scraping down to Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech should tell you everything about right now. You know what? I'll do KSU. Gonna be watching them anyway, so may as well take it. Let's see, Avery. Avery, you are the definition of inconsistent. Holy shit. I'll take her. I'll do it. Not confident about it, but I'll do it. No, don't force it. That's literally what I teach. Don't force it. I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to force it. I don't like it. I'm not going to force it. That is the lesson here, kids. Don't force it if you don't trust it. Let's go back to Houston, Oklahoma. Are they playing Oklahoma State? He threw for 400 yards last week. Holy hell. Oh, it's San Jose State. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that, Sorsberry. All right. That is my college football ticket. Let's go ahead and submit that. All right, everybody. So that is going to do it here for another it's going to do us here for another Underdog Fantasy Pick'em here. So I just want to thank every single one of you who have supported me here, watched this stream. I will have a video coming up later today. Was delayed just due to, family stuff, emergency room visits, things like that. But it is coming out today later. So keep an eye out for that. And hopefully y'all win something. Make sure you leave me a comment here on what you guys think, what you guys won, everything to that degree. Follow me on X. Follow me everywhere you like on Instagram, everything to that degree. And until next one, have a good one.